My name is John Z. Morris, 30 years old. I work as a civil engineer for the County Public Works Department. Stormwater systems, drainage reviews, infrastructure inspections, the kind of work nobody writes movies about. Stable paycheck, pension track, 5 years in. 78,000 a year with a clean path toward senior engineer if I kept my head down for another few years. I owned a condo. My truck was paid off. Every Saturday, I coached my niece's softball team. My whole life existed within 30 minutes of where I grew up. That mattered. Because this story only makes sense if you understand I wasn't waiting for an escape plan. My boyfriend, Adrian Mercer, was the opposite. He worked in fashion marketing. Creative, charming, always networking. He could enter a room and leave with 5 business cards, 3 invitations, and 1 person convinced he was destined for something bigger. And Paris. Paris had been living in our relationship like an invisible third person. He took French in college. His studio apartment had Eiffel Tower prints, string lights, and tiny cafe tables he found online. Saturday mornings meant croissants, French press coffee, and him saying things like, "One day this will be real." I thought it was a dream. I didn't know it was a plan I hadn't been invited into. Easter Sunday was at my mother's house. Same as always. Too much food, too many relatives, ham, scalloped potatoes, green bean casserole, rolls, pie waiting on the counter. My parents were there, my older sister and her husband, my younger brother and his wife, grandma, my niece, and a few cousins. Adrian had been coming for 2 years. Everybody liked him. Mom adored him. Dinner was warm and normal until Grandma started telling the same story about Grandpa accidentally bringing home the wrong Christmas tree in 1978. Everyone laughed because she was 84, and she earned the repeats. Then Adrian stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. He lifted his wine glass. My sister looked at me like, "You know about this?" I didn't. Adrian smiled at the whole table. "I have exciting news." Mom leaned forward. Grandma stopped mid-story. Adrian looked straight at me, glowing like I was supposed to glow back. "We're moving to Paris." The room went still. He kept talking. "I applied for a position at a fashion house there, and I just got invited for a final interview. If everything works out, we'll be relocating this summer." Relocating, summer. My fork was still in my hand. I had never heard about the application. Never discussed moving overseas. Never agreed to leave my job, my family, my home, my life. The first time I learned I was moving to France was at my mother's Easter table with potatoes on my plate and my grandmother sitting 2 feet away. Adrian had not shared news. He had staged a trap. He looked at me like he expected me to jump up and hug him. Instead, I set my fork down, took 1 breath, and said bon voyage. His smile cracked. "What?" I said bon voyage. He laughed once, confused. "No, Johnsy, I mean us. You applied. You got the interview. You made the plan." His eyes narrowed. "So, good luck," I said. The silence became sharp. Mom's smile froze. My brother stared at his plate. Grandma slowly lowered her water glass. Adrian whispered, "You're embarrassing me." I looked at him. "You announced my future in front of my family without asking me first. I wanted it to be exciting." "Surprises are birthday cakes," I said. "Not international relocations." Nobody moved. Then Mom, bless her, said, "Who wants pie?" Dinner crawled back to life, but Adrian barely spoke. After dessert, I helped Mom wash dishes. My sister came beside me with a stack of plates and whispered, "Did you know?" "No." She dried 1 plate slowly. That's what I thought. The drive to Adrian's apartment was silent for 12 minutes. Then he snapped. "You humiliated me." I kept both hands on the wheel. "You announced a life-changing decision for me in front of 12 people. I wanted support. You wanted pressure." "That's manipulation to say." "No," I said quietly. "Manipulation is making me hear about Paris for the first time at Easter dinner, so I'd look cruel if I said no." He turned toward the window. "You're choosing drainage ditches over our future." I pulled into his apartment lot and stopped the truck. I'm choosing my career, my family, my home, and my self-respect over being a supporting character in your movie. For once, Adrian had no perfect answer. He opened the door. Before stepping out, he said, "You'll regret this." I looked ahead. Maybe. But at least it'll be a choice I made myself. He slammed the door hard enough to shake the truck. And as I drove home alone, I realized Paris wasn't what hurt most. It was discovering he never thought my permission mattered. 5 days after Easter, Adrian called. I expected anger. Instead, he sounded calm. Too calm. "Can we talk?" I was sitting at my kitchen counter reviewing drainage plans for a subdivision project that had already ruined 3 afternoons and 1 Saturday. Rain tapped softly against the windows. "Okay," he exhaled. I know the announcement timing wasn't ideal. Not ideal. Like he'd served cold food. Not publicly rearranged my future. "The opportunity is real," he continued. "My final interview is in 9 days. If I get it, the start date is August 1st. I waited. Then came the real point. "I need to know if you're in or out." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an ultimatum. I leaned back in my chair. "I'm out." Silence. Then, "Seriously? You applied for jobs in another country without discussing it with me. Then you announced it publicly. Now you're giving me deadlines. I'm trying to build us a future." "No," I said quietly. "You're building your future and assigning me a role in it." His voice sharpened. "So you're choosing drainage systems over us?" I almost laughed. People always mocked infrastructure until roads flooded. I'm choosing my career, my family, my home, and myself. You're scared. Maybe. But fear didn't fill out applications behind your partner's back. He hung up first. Tuesday, he called my mother. My mother. The woman who still texted me weather warnings even though I was 30. She called afterward laughing so hard she could barely speak. "That boy treated me like relationship customer service. What happened?" "He told me you were throwing away the opportunity of a lifetime." "And?" "I told him I raised a daughter, not a hostage." That was the first time I smiled all week. Wednesday brought the PDF. 12 pages. 12. He emailed it at 10. 14 p.m. Subject line: "Our future." I opened it. Regretted it immediately. Page 1. Paris skyline. Page 2. Cost of living comparisons. Page 3. Apartments. Page 4. Engineering job listings for foreigners. Page 5. Licensing pathways. Page 6. Social groups. Page 7. Public transit. Page 8. Healthcare. Page 9. Bakeries. Actual bakeries. The final slide showed a vacation photo of us from 2 summers earlier. Across the picture, "Our adventure starts now." I stared at the screen, then closed it, because somehow he'd found time to build a 12-page presentation but not enough time for a single honest conversation. I texted, "I appreciate the effort, but my answer hasn't changed. This is your opportunity, not ours." 3 dots appeared. Then, "You're going to regret this forever." I put my phone face down. Thursday, his best friend entered the fight. Chelsea. The woman who had spent 2 years acting shocked anyone with steel-toe boots and weather apps could be attractive. Her message arrived at lunch. Small-town mentality. Holding him back. "He deserves bigger things," I replied. "He's free to pursue bigger things." "That's literally what I'm saying," she answered instantly. "You don't deserve him," I typed. "He deserves someone who wants Paris. That isn't me." No response after that. Friday came. Interview day. Adrian flew out. Apparently the flight had been booked weeks earlier. Weeks. While we were planning Easter dinner. While he asked my mom what dessert to bring. While we watched movies on my couch. He already had plane tickets. At the airport, he texted, "Last chance. Come with me." I stared at it. then locked my phone. He went. Had the interview. Got the offer. Sunday night he called. He sounded electric. They offered me 2 years, relocation support, 58,000 euros. I could hear traffic behind him, hear joy, hear the version of him that had wanted this forever. "This is happening," he whispered. "Please come." I closed my eyes. "Congratulations." Long silence. "But I'm not coming." His breathing changed. "So this is really it? This is it. I'm going anyway?" "I know. You're abandoning me." I stared out my condo window toward the parking lot below. "No," I answered softly. "You're moving continents. That's geography, not abandonment." He hung up. I sat there for a long time, because underneath the manipulation, underneath the public ambush, underneath the deadlines and presentations, there was still someone I loved. And losing someone who hurts you is strange. You grieve them twice. Once for who they were, and once for who you finally realized they were not. After Adrian accepted the offer, everything accelerated. Suddenly, there were deadlines, visa paperwork, furniture listings, packing lists, international shipping quotes, life reduced into checkboxes. I offered to help, not because I changed my mind, not because we were getting back together, because love doesn't disappear the same day trust does. For about 2 weeks, we lived in something strange. Not together, not completely apart. I helped him carry boxes down 3 flights of apartment stairs. He returned my spare condo key. We talked about luggage sizes and customs paperwork instead of feelings. It felt like walking through the ruins of something while pretending not to notice the damage. Then came Saturday. He showed up with Thai food from our usual place. Pad see ew for him. Green curry for me. He knew my order without asking. That almost hurt more. We sat on my couch, turned on the show we always watched. For an hour, everything felt normal enough to be dangerous. Then he muted the television. "What if I asked for 6 more months?" I looked over. "What?" "I could delay the move. We could figure this out properly." For 30 seconds, I almost gave him the answer he wanted. Not because I wanted Paris, because he looked familiar again. Because grief is weakest around familiar things. "You shouldn't delay," I finally said. His face fell slightly. "Why not?" "Because 6 months won't change my answer." He looked down. "You never even considered trying." I swallowed. "I considered it every day." That shut both of us up. He packed leftovers into containers like muscle memory. At the door, he hugged me for the first time in weeks. Long, heavy. The kind of hug people use when they already know the ending. "I wish you were braver," he whispered. I pulled back. "I wish you asked first." That was the last time we were alone together. Then his family arrived. His mother called me while I was reviewing permit documents at work. First conversation we'd ever had privately. "I hear you're letting Adrian move to France alone." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm not letting or stopping him. He made a choice. He made a choice for both of you because he's ambitious. He applied without telling me. He's a planner. He announced my future to me during Easter dinner." Silence then. "You're small-minded." I almost laughed, because apparently wanting consent in your own life was provincial now. His father was worse. He emailed me. An actual email. Paragraphs. He said men in his generation followed women across the world for love. That comfort kills ambition. That I lacked adaptability. I stared at the message. Then archived it, because there are some conversations too ridiculous to join. Chelsea posted vague social media stories. Watching a king move to Paris while someone stays comfortable. Levels. Muted. Problem solved. Then departure week arrived. I drove him to the airport. 3 suitcases, 1 carry-on. A backpack stuffed with chargers, paperwork, and a French phrase book. The drive stayed mostly quiet. French cafe music played softly through the speakers. He checked his passport 6 times, maybe 7. At departures, I helped unload everything. We stood beside the curb surrounded by people saying rushed goodbyes. He wore sunglasses despite the clouds. I knew what that meant. I really thought you'd come, he said quietly. I know, not even eventually. I looked at him. You deserved support. He nodded slightly. But I deserved a conversation. His mouth tightened, because we both knew that was where this really broke. Not Paris, not France, not distance, respect. He hugged me tightly, then picked up his suitcase, walked toward the sliding doors, and disappeared inside. He never looked back. I sat in my truck afterward. Made it almost 10 minutes. Then a song came on. One he used to sing terribly while stealing fries from my bag. And I cried. Not dramatically, just enough. 3 weeks later, he posted photos from Paris. Tiny apartment, beautiful windows, bakery downstairs. He looked happy, really happy. I liked the photo, because I wasn't angry anymore. Just sad. Life stayed mostly the same. Work, family dinners, softball Saturdays. Mom made pot roast and never mentioned Adrian once. That's her version of kindness. My sister asked one question. You okay? Yeah. She passed the bread. Conversation moved on. That's how my family loves. Quietly. A week later, Adrian texted. The croissants here really are that good. You would have liked them. I stared at the message, then replied, I'm glad you're happy. You deserve this. A heart emoji appeared. I put my phone down, went back to recalculating runoff flow rates for a retention basin project. Not glamorous. Not Paris, but mine. And that's what I finally understood. The problem was never that Adrian chased his dream. The problem was that he decided I belonged inside it before asking whether I wanted to go.